I'm about to say some things that are going to make some people angry. But before you get angry, I want to make sure that you're not getting angry with me because you misunderstand my position. I'm not here to attack those who invest in precious metals. I'm not here to tell you where to invest. I don't defend the dollar or any other paper currency, and I honestly don't care what you do with your paycheck. My issue is with a few particular media figures who are misleading the public, whether intentionally or otherwise. There's some pretty prominent people here on YouTube who are selling people the false hope and a false sense of security by claiming that the solution to the problems we face is simply to convince people to buy up large quantities of physical silver. And that this alone will be enough to unseat the banking elite while at the same time protecting those smart enough to make this investment from the worst effects of the inevitable economic collapse. This perspective is delusional and dangerous, in much the same way that the false promises of snake oil salesmen who sold opium to cancer patients were dangerous. And I'm going to explain why. But first of all, just so you know I'm not exaggerating here, I want you to take a look at these quotes taken from the website of someone here on YouTube who has a following of over 20,000 subs. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want this to be a personal attack. My issue is with the ideas he's putting forth. In this article, I intend to put forth a plan that will fundamentally change the game and do it from outside the system. It will overthrow the elitist system that enslaves us with debt and do so without a shot being fired. Most importantly, there is no way that the elite can stop it. The plan is quite simple. Sell every single asset you own right now and buy physical silver. This cavalier attitude is mirrored in another quote by that same individual. Let them print all that they want, so long as we stack silver. Okay, first of all, corrupt governments and banker cartels are not going to be overturned by you purchasing silver, no matter how much silver you buy. The dollar's value has absolutely nothing to do with the price of silver. The dollar's value comes from the fact that it's the only currency that can be used to buy oil in the global market. Silver could rise to $1,000 an ounce, and that fact would not change. The dollar will fall when enough countries stop selling their oil in dollars. But that's not going to happen until the U.S. is defeated or at least severely weakened militarily. The U.S. has successfully toppled every country that's dared to switch their oil sales off of the dollar with the exception of Iran, and they're working on Iran. The bankers don't care about the coins you keep in your house. It makes absolutely no difference to them. These people are playing the game for control of entire nations. If they win, they get the mines, they get the oil fields, they get the real estate, everything of value. And in the end, they will have your coins because they control the assets that you're going to have to buy with those coins. Furthermore, the U.S. government has already seized precious metals from citizens in the past. Why do you think that they would refrain from doing it today if your coins did, by some stretch of the imagination, pose a threat to them? Let's be realistic here. Never once in history has a dictatorial system been toppled by a people hoarding precious metals. And not once in history has a pile of precious metals protected anyone from war once the bombs were falling through their roof. To pretend that something has magically changed and that now, if you just hold this metal in your possession, you're going to be immune from the horrors that the rest of the world is going to face when the dollar falls, is delusional. I understand why people want to believe it. It's comforting. It's an easy answer. Just buy silver and everything will be okay. But it's not going to be okay. Let's take a look at another quote by the same individual, the last paragraph in particular. The system is mortally wounded, and when the dollar collapses, all the NDAAs in the world will be a pipe dream for the elite. We will be taking care of things in our control for when they are most weak. Okay, yes, the system may be mortally wounded, but if you think the NDAA and the government's other preparations to use the military against citizens is a pipe dream, then you know nothing about history. Wounded regimes are by far the most bloodthirsty and dangerous. It's essentially like having a gut-shot grizzly bear in a corner. When governments are on the brink of losing control, they almost always resort to brutalizing and killing those who pose a threat to them. And if your coins pose a threat to them, then they would turn their barrels in your direction. That's just common sense. And talk about pipe dreams. If you think your coins are going to allow you to take control of this faltering system, when they still have tanks and drones and hordes of brainwashed soldiers who think that you're a terrorist, you're deluding yourself. Now, I agree that protests, such as waving signs in the street and petitioning the government to change, is a waste of time. But to act like this is the only option is to disregard the entire spectrum of civil disobedience, which would include tax resistance if you were being honest with yourself. This is even more ironic because on the same page where he posted the first quote, you'll find another famous quote. Let them march all they want, as long as they pay their taxes. We could say the same thing in another way. Let them stack silver all that they want, as long as they pay their taxes. Here's what it comes down to. If buying silver was a threat to the power elite, it would be illegal. It's as simple as that. To get to the point where people are actually organizing outside the system is not a question of coinage. It's a question of political unity and resolve, which unfortunately is virtually non-existent right now, even in the so-called truth or freedom movement or whatever you want to call it. You're not going to fix that by insisting that people make a particular financial investment. The reality of the matter is that even if buying massive amounts of silver were an effective strategy for taking down the banking elite, less and less people are going to be in a position to even cover their basic needs as this crisis progresses, much less invest in precious metals. For those who can, for those who have the means, great, you're protecting your wealth against inflation. That's a worthwhile measure to take for you and your family. But don't pretend that your responsibility ends there. It doesn't. The real solution to the insanity we face is going to come down to people. You're going to have to learn to organize your communities. You're going to have to learn to be leaders. These are social skills, not commodities or investments. A lot of you aren't going to like that answer because it's not a convenient answer. You can't go online and buy an ounce of leadership or community organization skills or a bottle of emotional maturity. No one is going to be able to hand you a ready-made solution, and you should be highly suspicious of anyone who claims otherwise. If you want to change things, you're going to have to go out there in the real world and fight for your children's future. If you succeed, it's only going to be because you fight with the ferocity that comes when you realize what the stakes really are. In closing, there is no silver bullet. There is no easy answer. Those who try to convince you otherwise are doing you a disservice. Human societies are guided and held together by ideas and a shared sense of morality. When the people lose sight of those foundational principles, corruption and dictatorial power inevitably take root.